Imagine if just one single force was responsible for pretty much everything: healing, mental well being, your character, habits, even success. And what if this wasn't some, new discovery, but something people were exploring way back over a century ago? Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really remarkable book from 1906. It's called Autosuggestion: What It Is and How to Use It for Health, Happiness, and Success. The author is Herbert A. Parkyn, MD. And this book comes from that time, the new psychology era when they were really digging into the mind body connection. It's honestly a surprisingly modern take on how we influence ourselves. So, our mission today, we want to uncover Dr. Parkyn's core ideas about autosuggestion, see all the ways he thought it could be applied, and hopefully find some insights for you, some aha moments about your own mind's power straight from this almost forgotten source. Okay, so let's start right there. The core concept. Dr. Parkin defines autosuggestion pretty simply, actually. He calls it self-impression, that an impression you make on yourself or one that just arises in your own mind. Sounds straightforward, right? Yeah. But he breaks it down into three really interesting categories.
Right. And the way he categorizes them is quite revealing. First up, there's voluntary autosuggestion. This is the one we probably all recognize. It's when you consciously, deliberately impress a thought on your mind, like deciding, okay, I must wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. That's voluntary. Then there's involuntary autosuggestion. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. He says it's an unconscious outgrowth of ideas, often triggered by things outside ourselves, external impressions.
Okay, like what kind of things?
Well, he gives some great examples. Imagine someone visiting Chicago from New York. Their watch is still an hour ahead, right? They look at it, tell a Chicago friend, oh, it's 12 o'clock. And the Chicago friend suddenly feels hungry. Why? Because 12 is their normal lunch hour. The suggestion triggered a physical response, completely unconsciously.
Wow. Okay, so the mind just runs with it.
Exactly. Or another one he gives, touching clothes worn by someone with a skin issue,
Yep.
and then immediately imagining you feel itching spots all over your body, convinced you've caught it. That's involuntary autosuggestion kicking in.
That's powerful stuff. And Parkin connects this to things like intuition, doesn't he? He suggests that what we often call intuition might actually be this involuntary autosuggestion at work. Like maybe a child had a bad experience with someone, forgets the details, but carries this vague dislike into adulthood for anyone who just sort of resembles that original person.
Or the flip side, childhood dreams or desires unconsciously pushing us towards certain achievements as adults without us even knowing why we're so driven in that direction.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. How much of what we consider a gut feeling or even just, our basic preferences might actually be these old, stored, unconscious impressions from way back?
Okay, so there's voluntary, involuntary. What's the third type?
The third one is maybe the trickiest. He calls it voluntary autosuggestion. Bit of a mouthful.
Involuntary, voluntary.
Okay.
How does that work?
This happens when someone gives you an external suggestion, like a doctor prescribing medicine. But the real effect comes from your internal unconscious reinforcement of that suggestion. So the patient takes the medicine and unconsciously thinks, right, I'm taking this, it's going to calm my nerves, help me sleep.
So the patient's own mind is doing the heavy lifting, even if the suggestion came from outside.
Precisely. Or his example of absent healing, which was a thing back then. The idea was a healer sends telepathic health thoughts. Parkyn says the patient receives these as voluntary auto-suggestions, but only if the patient desires them and their own mind accepts and acts on them. The patient activates the effect.
This is really key for Parkin, isn't it? He thinks this is how suggestion actually works in practice.
Yes, he claims this is exactly what the practical suggestionists of his day used to get results, even with people who were skeptical.
How so?
They'd give patients simple tasks, maybe sipping water slowly or doing some basic physical exercises, and they strongly impress upon the patient. Marked benefit will follow these simple practices.
So the task itself wasn't necessarily the cure.
Exactly. The task was a vehicle. It activated the patient's own internal belief, their own beneficial autosuggestions. That was the engine for change.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we need to understand his model of the mind, right? This dual mind idea.
Yes, exactly. He uses the terms voluntary mind and involuntary mind.
Yeah.
Think of them roughly like conscious and subconscious, though maybe not a perfect one-to-one mapping with modern terms.
Okay, so the involuntary mind.
Right.
What's its role according to Parkin?
It's huge. He says it controls us during sleep, it's unconscious, it manages all our bodily functions, breathing, heartbeat, digestion, everything. It's also the seat of our emotions and memory. It stores all our life experiences, everything we've learned.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And crucially, he says it can't reason inductively. It can't go from specific observations to general principles on its own. But, and this is key, it is amenable to control by the voluntary mind.
Okay, so the voluntary mind, that's our conscious awareness.
Right. Alert when we're awake. Capable of reasoning both inductively and deductively. And here's its power. It can stimulate, slow down, or even totally change the functions of our organs. And it can change the stored impressions held in that involuntary mind.
So the conscious mind is like the director.
In a way, yes. The involuntary mind is automatic, running the show in the background, but it's always listening, always open to suggestions from the voluntary mind.
Okay, so let's unpack the implications of that. What does this dual mind theory really mean for us?
Well, the big takeaway is pretty radical, especially for 1906. It means your conscious thoughts, your voluntary mind, aren't just passive observers. They're actively programming your involuntary mind. Constantly sending signals. So if you consistently talk about feeling sick, dwell on ailments, your involuntary mind picks that up and influences your body accordingly.
But the opposite is also true.
Absolutely. If you think and talk about health, focus on well-being, you influence your involuntary mind and thus your body towards improvement or maintaining good health.
He gives an example, right, about someone timid.
Yes, a really compelling one. A self-conscious, timid man can transform himself, become determined and fearless, simply by holding strong thoughts, thoughts of courage, confidence in his voluntary mind, holding them persistently until the involuntary mind accepts them, internalizes them as its own default programming.
So you can literally reshape yourself mentally and physically just by controlling your conscious thoughts.
That's Parkyn's assertion. Intentional control of voluntary thought is the key to influencing yourself.
And let's shift gears a bit. How does he apply this to physical health? He makes a pretty bold claim there.
He really does.
Yeah.
He says, basically, if you exclude physical violence, accidents, that kind of thing, every other physical problem can ultimately be traced back to an imperfect blood supply.
Imperfect blood supply. That sounds specific.
It is. And he argues the quality and quantity of your blood depend entirely on what he calls the life essentials.
Which are?
Simple things. Food, liquids, and air.
Okay, that sounds basic enough. But where does autosuggestion come in?
Well, he argues that autosuggestion is crucial for utilizing these essentials properly. He says it can create a genuine appetite for good, wholesome food. And it can stimulate your organs' digestion, elimination, to actually use that food effectively to create good red normal blood.
And he felt this was often missed.
Yes, he makes a big point of this. He says this focus on the physical essentials, stimulated by autosuggestion, was frequently overlooked by Christian scientists, mental scientists, magnetic healers, even, he says, by many regular physicians and osteopaths of his day.
And that's why people ended up seeking out suggestionists.
That's his argument, because the suggestionists understood how to use the mind to get the body to properly use these fundamental life essentials, leading to rapid physical improvements.
So what were his practical tips on these life essentials?
Very practical. For liquids, he recommended 2 quarts daily. That's about 10 regular glasses of water or other fluids. And interestingly, he notes that just knowing this fact, just being aware of the need, becomes an autosuggestion that prompts you to drink enough.
Okay. So knowledge itself is a suggestion. What about air and food?
Air. Simple.
Yeah.
Get fresh air. He believed that dwelling on the idea of fresh air naturally prompts you to breathe more deeply. Food. This is interesting. He argued against restrictive diets, the dyspeptic foods often recommended for indigestion back then. He said the body needs the constituents found in a hearty diet, like that of a healthy person.
But what if hearty food caused distress?
Parkyn argued the problem wasn't the food itself, it was the body's inability to digest it properly. And why couldn't it digest? Often, he claimed, due to insufficient air and water intake. Not enough water dilutes digestive juices, poor breathing affects circulation. He believed many cases of constipation and indigestion could be solved just by drinking enough liquids and breathing deeply.
It's really fascinating how he directly links basic physical needs to the mind's influence.
Absolutely. And he uses common examples to show the mind's control over organs. Like just imagining squeezing a lemon makes your mouth water, that saliva production increasing. Witnessing something horrible can make you nauseous, slowing digestion. Shocking news can literally stop the heart or completely undermine health by killing appetite.
And he warned about negative suggestions too, didn't he?
Very strongly. He warned against what he called adverse autosuggestions. constantly talking about past illnesses or suffering, that prolongs it.
Makes sense.
Medical students studying diseases.
Mm.
He observed they often start imagining they have those diseases.
Yeah, you hear about that.
Even patent medicine pamphlets, he argued, could create suffering by planting negative ideas in people's minds.
Wow.
And he tells this rather chilling story about two physician friends of his. Both specialized in certain diseases, and both ended up dying from those very diseases.
Yeah.
He strongly implies their constant mental focus, unchecked, adverse autosuggestions played a significant role.
That's sobering. So his core message is about taking control.
Yes, he essentially says your mind can learn to control your stomach, your bowels, your heart, just like you control your hands. You need to educate them to work for you, as he puts it, by sending frequent, strong, a definite cycle of decline. For example, prolonged grief or worry can make someone lose their appetite, neglect those life essentials. This leads to physical deterioration. The blood supply gets stinted, the brain doesn't get properly nourished, which then aggravates the mental symptoms. Worry or grief can become, as he puts it, a permanent habit of thought.
And it works the other way, too. Physical decline leading to mental issues.
Yes, overwork, poor living conditions, excesses, these things impair physical health, which in turn impairs brain function. That can manifest as nervousness, insomnia, melancholia, developing abnormal, negative thought habits.
So what's the solution according to Parkyn? Where do you start?
Always with the physical. He insists the very first step to overcoming mental troubles is to improve the physical condition.
Get the body right first.
Exactly. Better nutrition for the brain leads to better control via the voluntary mind, which allows mental health to improve.
So for anyone suffering mentally, his advice is look after the basics.
First, look after the physical basics, the life essentials we talked about. And alongside that, hold the constant auto-suggestion. As my physical condition improves, I am obtaining the mental characteristics I desire.
And he gave specific suggestions for different mental states.
He did detailed positive affirmations. The key thing is they're always positive affirmations of the desired state.
Not focusing on the negative problem.
Absolutely not. For habitual worry, you wouldn't say, I won't worry. You'd affirm things like, I am healthy, strong, content. I live in today. My conscience is clear. I am molding the outcomes I desire.
Okay. And for fear.
Building physical strength first, then affirming. My courage is increasing. I am determined. I am confident, fearless, assertive.
Nervousness.
Focusing on nourishing the nerves and brain, affirming. My self-control is increasing. I am calm. I act deliberately.
It's a consistent pattern. What about things like memory or anger?
Similar principle. For memory concentration, affirming, improve circulation to the brain, exercising mental muscles. For anger, affirming harmony, quiet action, self-control, thinking twice, becoming even-tempered. Even for selfishness, affirming generosity, bringing pleasure to others.
And he had a really crucial rule about how not to phrase these, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely critical. He stressed, avoid negative auto-suggestions.
Like saying, I am not nervous.
Exactly. He believed saying, I will not be nervous, or I am not nervous, actually makes it worse.
Why?
Because it brings the very thing you're trying to avoid, the nervousness, directly into your conscious thought. It reinforces the problem.
So you have to frame it positively.
Always use positive, affirmative language.
Yeah.
Assume the state you want is already developing or even already present. I am becoming calm, or I am calm. That's the mindset.
Okay, let's move on to how he saw this shaping our fundamental selves, our character and habits. This is where it gets really deep, I think.
It really does. He basically says, our entire education, everything we learn and become, is the result of suggestions, impressions coming into our senses.
And these stored impressions become?
Auto-suggestions. They become the background programming that shapes who we are.
He puts a lot of emphasis on childhood, doesn't he?
A huge amount. He compares a child's mind to an empty barrel. And he argues that the first impressions put into that barrel are the most lasting, the most influential.
So our character, beliefs, ideals, all molded early on.
That's his view. He says overcoming undesirable traits or habits formed in childhood is a heroic task later on because those early impressions are so deeply ingrained.
He gives some quite striking examples of this early influence.
Very vivid ones, like an ignorant, superstitious Irish nurse, his words, reflecting the biases of this time, of course.
Sure.
But his point is about how her beliefs, her superstitions, even her accent, could be passed on to the children she cared for, influencing their entire lives, friendships, even who they married.
Wow. Or the mother telling her child that riding backward makes you sick.
Exactly. creating a lifelong autosuggestion that causes real distress. He calls these sorts of things the absurdities prevalent among the masses that make life unnecessarily fussy and unhappy.
So what's the takeaway? What does he want us to do about these ingrained beliefs?
His call to action is twofold. First, for ourselves. Actively work to stamp out these old absurd notions by using new conscious autosuggestions of forming mastery, health, bravery, optimism, basically reprogramming ourselves.
And the second part?
For parents, he passionately urges them to carefully select the impressions that children receive because those impressions will shape their entire future.
It's a big responsibility. What about habits more generally? Not just character, but everyday actions.
He says all habits, good or bad, are formed by repetition. Repeating a thought or an action makes it automatic. Many habits form involuntarily, without us even realizing.
But we can create habits deliberately.
Yes, that's the good news. Useful habits can be voluntarily developed using autosuggestion.
He tells a story about someone losing things.
Yeah, a couple of good ones. A man who was always losing his pocket knife. He consciously decided on a system. After using the knife, hold the cover, repeat a specific suggestion about putting it in a designated pocket, and then do it. After practicing this, the action became automatic. He stopped losing knives.
Simple but effective.
And another about a woman losing valuable rings. Same principle. Create a specific routine, tying them in a handkerchief, tucking it away, reinforced with suggestion until the new safe habit took over.
He felt childhood was the best time for this.
Absolutely. The most favorable time to instill good habits. And he kind of laments that parents often neglect teaching the little habits.
Like what?
Tidiness, basic manners, posture, table etiquette, things he calls the polish. He argues these seemingly small things actually have a huge impact on a child's future career and social standing.
He backs that up with another story, doesn't he? About a job interview.
A really telling one. A business owner interviews two candidates. One has fantastic references, clearly qualified, but during lunch, his habits are, well, uncouth, as Parkyn puts it. Eating with his knife, drinking from the saucer, picking his teeth, cleaning his nails publicly.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. The owner rejects him purely based on these habits, despite the qualifications. The job goes to someone else, someone with polish. That second person eventually becomes a junior partner, earning high salary. Meanwhile, the first guy, the one with the bad habits, remains in low-paid positions.
That's a stark example of how those little things can matter.
It really is.
Yeah.
And he also talks about systematizing work routines. An insurance agent who felt overwhelmed used autosuggestion to create efficient daily habits.
Like what kind of habits?
Things like always filling his card case first thing, checking his fountain pen, organizing his sales literature, filing letters immediately, planning his client visits logically. He even developed a system for automatically sorting his change into different pockets.
Huh. That's dedication.
But Parkyn says it saved the agent 2 valuable hours' time every day. It streamlined everything.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much time and friction could you save? How much could you improve interactions just by consciously forming some of these little habits of polish or efficiency?
It's a very practical application of his ideas.
Okay, let's talk about something maybe a bit more mysterious sounding. Personal magnetism. Did Parkyn believe in that?
Well, yes and no. He acknowledges getting lots of letters asking about this mysterious subject. People clearly thought of it as some kind of tangible force, like electricity or, well, magnetism.
But he didn't see it that way.
No, he explicitly debunks that idea. He laughs off the notion that rubbing paper so it sticks to a wall is personal magnetism. He points out that's just static electricity, easily replicated with silk or even a cat's fur, and it depends on things like temperature. It's physics, not personality.
So if it's not a literal force, what is personal magnetism according to Parkyn?
He defines it very differently. For him, personal magnetism depends entirely upon the impression one individual makes upon the senses and the soul of another.
An impression.
Yes, and he boils it down to this. Personal magnetism is simply the art of pleasing.
The art of pleasing. Okay, and can it be learned?
Absolutely. That's his key point. It can be cultivated. How? Through self-study and the intelligent use of autosuggestion. You study what pleases people, and you use autosuggestion to develop those qualities in yourself.
What qualities did he think were essential for this magnetism?
He lists quite a few. Things like a cheerful face, a steady gaze, personal neatness, good health and strength, determination combined with gentleness, modesty, being even-tempered, cool under pressure, Also, kindly aggressiveness, meaning proactive kindness, perhaps confidence, fearlessness, thoughtfulness, and genuine consideration for others.
That's quite a list. How do these relate to pleasing the senses?
He gets very specific. A warm handshake feels better than a cold, clammy one. A clear complexion is more pleasing than a pale, sickly one. A body and clothes free from unpleasant odors are essential. A soft, pleasant voice is better than a harsh, grating one. It's about making a positive sensory impression.
Makes sense. And what about behavior?
The magnetic person, he says, avoids pointless arguments, though they'll stand up for principles. They're good listeners, genuinely interested in others. They never boast, they're modest but not timid or shy. They're encouraging, appreciative. They might use flattery, but carefully, judiciously.
So making others feel good.
Exactly. Making others feel comfortable, valued. They make people feel good even about accepting help or favors. They're thoughtful, courteous, kind, not because they're calculating, but because it's become second nature to them. He sums it up nicely. They have a bright smile, a pleasant word, and a glad hand for everyone.
Where does a lack of this magnetism come from, typically?
Often, he traces it back to early home life. Maybe critical parents who discouraged openness and warmth. His advice for cultivating magnetism: drop the critical attitude, actively cultivate kindly feelings, make an effort to mingle with people, practice making friends. Ultimately, he says, it reduces itself to the ability to make and hold friendships.
So it's not just about thinking magnetic thoughts in isolation.
Definitely not. He emphasizes practical work. You have to get out there, interact. The goal: meeting as many people as possible, and to have each one of them leave you feeling better for having met you. That's the real practice.
And auto-suggestions supports this practice.
Yes, by building the underlying qualities. He gives powerful affirmations for it. I am determined to become a strong, kind, magnetic man. I am careful about my personal appearance. I am bright, happy, cheerful, and sympathetic. I am honest and truthful. I will be kind to every living thing. I will put myself in the other fellow's place.
And the idea is, if you repeat these earnestly,
and crucially, put them into practice in your interactions, they will unconsciously influence a man's whole nature and his actions for the better. You become what you affirm and practice.
Okay, let's talk optimism versus pessimism. How did Parkyn view these?
Well, he draws a pretty clear line. Pessimism, for him, is about exaggerating life's evils, only seeing the dark side. Optimism is the belief that fundamentally things are right and good, and having hope, expecting the best.
And you connected this back to physical health again, right?
Absolutely. He tells a story about a man who was studying New Thought, a popular self-help philosophy of the time, but wasn't getting any results, still deeply pessimistic. Parkyn diagnosed the problem. The man was neglecting his physical life essentials. His health was poor.
So positive thinking alone wasn't enough.
Not according to Parkyn. Not if the physical foundation was crumbling. He actually says New Thought theories are all right for people in good health, but tend to be a positive failure for those in poor health unless the body is addressed.
But auto-suggestion could help there.
Yes, because auto-suggestion, unlike maybe just abstract positive thinking, could create the desire to actually take care of the physical essentials.
What?
Drink water, eat well, get fresh air.
What about people who are just chronically pessimistic? Lifelong Eeyores.
He acknowledges that's harder to shift. Often, he says, these individuals don't even realize their thinking patterns are different or negative. They don't see how their own gloomy outlook actually drives away positive people and contributes to the very circumstances they complain about. They create their own negative feedback loop.
He had an example for this too, didn't he? The store owner.
A really vivid one. This store owner was chronically pessimistic, complained constantly, blamed everyone else, was indifferent to customers. And his entire business, the store itself, the stock, the atmosphere, became, as Parkyn puts it, a mirror-like reflection of his own thoughts. Dingy, neglected, uninviting.
I mean, customers stayed away.
Naturally. His negativity actively repelled business.
So what if that store owner changed his outlook? What if he, as Parkyn says, cast his bread upon the waters with smiles and cheerful words?
Parkyn firmly believed that optimism assists materially in drawing to us all that is good and worthwhile having in this life.
How does that work practically?
It comes back to his core axiom. Thought takes form in action. If you cultivate generous, optimistic thoughts, you start acting that way. You overlook minor faults in others. You take a broader, more positive view. Your actions change, and people respond differently.
So again, auto-suggestion is the tool.
It's the tool to cultivate that optimistic mindset. He offers suggestions like, my body and brain are well nourished. My mind can operate as clearly as the greatest optimist. I shall see the bright side of everything. My optimism will draw people to me. I am conquering myself. I believe the world is good. I am bound to succeed, for I believe in success.
Powerful stuff. And he includes that fable, right? The Okapi?
Yes, Dorothy Dix's Fable of the Modest Okapi. It's great. This creature fails miserably at finding a job, finding love, all because it's too modest, constantly downplaying itself.
Until it gets some advice.
Right. Someone tells it to basically spraddle the news around that you are a four-ply baby and a
Yeah.
winner. Start acting like you're valuable,
And it works.
like a charm. Instant success in career and romance.
And the moral.
Parkyn highlights Dix's moral. The world takes us at our own valuation, and that it is up to us to always mark the price tag up high.
A pretty blunt message about self-belief from 1906.
Isn't it just? Believe in your own value, project that belief, and the world is more likely to agree.
Okay, let's tackle concentration. How did Parkyn approach developing focus?
He used a great analogy. He called concentration a mental muscle.
Like a bicep.
Exactly. And just like a physical muscle, developing it requires two things.
Which are?
First, proper nutrition in this case, proper nutrition to the brain. Second, consistent exercise.
So again, physical health is foundational.
Absolutely paramount for Parkyn. He
Okay.
states very clearly, if your overall health is poor, if your brain isn't well nourished, then just doing concentration exercises will avail but little. You have to fix the foundation first.
Makes sense. Did he differentiate types of concentration?
Yes, he talked about passive concentration. The effortless kind, like when you're totally absorbed in watching a football game or a movie, versus active or voluntary concentration, the kind that requires real effort, real willpower, like studying something difficult or uninteresting, say, Greek verbs.
And that active kind isn't about staring fixedly.
No, he points out that you can't actually hold your focus completely steady on one unchanging thing for more than a few moments. For him, voluntary concentration is actually a constant process, a repetition of successive efforts to bring back a subject to the mind whenever it wanders. It's about gently, persistently redirecting your focus.
Okay, so practical steps. What did he recommend?
First and foremost, check your general health. Get the basics right: digestion, bowels, circulation, using those life essentials principles. He believed your natural powers of concentration would likely improve significantly just from getting healthier.
And then the exercises.
Judicious exercise, starting small. Don't try to run a mental marathon on day one. Start with light concentration exercises, maybe just for short periods, and gradually increase the duration as you feel your mental muscle getting stronger.
Did he suggest a specific exercise?
Yes, what he considered the best practice.
Yeah.
Take a sentence from a valuable book, maybe something scientific or philosophical, something that isn't immediately gripping or entertaining.
Okay.
Read the sentence carefully, then put the book down and try to reproduce the idea of that sentence, either out loud or by writing it down. Not just parrot the words, but grasp and restate the meaning.
Then build up from there.
Exactly. Try with several sentences, then a paragraph, then a whole chapter, eventually maybe even a whole book. He says flat out, there is no better exercise in memorizing and concentrating than this.
That sounds challenging, but effective. And auto-suggestions to support this.
Of course. Affirmations focused on brain health and mental power. My brain is now thoroughly nourished, capable of doing as good work as any other brain. I have mental muscles. They are developing now. I have willpower and determination. They obey my will. I enjoy concentrating my attention. I can read, mark, learn, and inwardly digest anything. And importantly, I always succeed in what I undertake.
Building that sense of capability.
Precisely. And he comes back again to his core axioms. Thought takes form in action.
Yeah.
And that other one. A man can tell a story so often that eventually he will believe it himself.
So praise yourself.
Yes. Praise your own abilities, your own efforts. He says your involuntary mind will fill with pride, which gives you genuine confidence and courage to tackle challenging mental tasks.
Now, this next part is where Parkyn really throws down the gauntlet, isn't it? His claim about autosuggestion being the basis of all healing.
It's definitely his most sweeping claim, and probably the most controversial, both then and now. He asserts that basically all the cures attributed to various systems, Christian Science, magnetic healing, divine science, mental science, cures at sacred shrines, absent treatment, success circles, and even he says the majority of cures achieved by conventional medical doctors of his time were all fundamentally due to autosuggestion.
That's huge. How did he justify that?
His logic is interesting. He argues that for any given disease, there can ultimately be only one actual method of cure, one underlying healing process in the body. So regardless of how many different systems claim to cure it, all any system can really do is somehow arouse the healing powers within the patient himself.
Okay, activate the body's own healing.
Right. And since that internal healing force must be the same process, identical in every instance, no matter what external system triggered it, it follows for him that all these diverse systems must be employing one common agent to trigger that internal force.
And that common agent is autosuggestion.
That's his conclusion. The moment a patient starts any treatment, does anything at all with the purpose of getting better, their own autosuggestion kicks in. They expect a result. They believe something is happening.
So the most effective system is the one that triggers the strongest belief.
Essentially, yes. The system that arouses the strongest, most positive autosuggestion in the patient is the one most likely to lead to a cure.
He even mentions some pretty weird methods working.
He does, deliberately pointing to what he calls absurd methods that apparently produced results back then. Things like curing by blowing on affected parts or snapping fingers over a patient, or even a bizarre case where a doctor supposedly took the medicine himself instead of giving it to the patient, and the patient got better.
Okay, that's strange.
His point is, if autosuggestion can work even when hidden behind these absurd disguises, then, he asks, who can say what cannot be accomplished by its undisguised intelligent use? If we harness it directly and consciously, its potential must be enormous.
It's definitely a provocative thought about what healing really is.
Highly provocative.
Okay, let's bring this home. The final concept Parkyn introduces feels incredibly relevant today. Psychic pictures. Mental images.
Yes, this feels very modern, doesn't it? The reader asks you, what are your typical mental pictures like? Are they helping you or hurting you?
And his core belief here.
He states it as a fundamental law. Thought tends to take form in action, and mental pictures tend to materialize.
So what you picture in your mind influences your reality.
Strongly influences it, yes. He warns that holding negative mental pictures, constantly visualizing weakness, fear, failure, poverty, even insanity, can actually lead to those things materializing.
How? What's the mechanism?
Often, he suggests, by interfering with those vital life essentials. Negative mental states undermine your desire or ability to eat well, drink water, breathe deeply, exercise, leading to physical and mental decline that matches the negative picture.
And you can't hold opposite pictures simultaneously.
No. He argues it's impossible to vividly picture health at the same time as you're picturing disease or confidence while picturing timidity. You have to choose.
So the choice seems obvious.
Exactly. Since mental pictures tend to materialize, he says, it is not difficult to select the classes of mental pictures one should encourage his mind to hold. Focus on the positive outcomes.
What's the practical rule he gives for this?
It's very simple. Picture, voluntarily, in one's mind, the exact conditions it is desired to bring about.
Just picture what you want.
Yes, but not just once in a while. He stresses this needs to be consistent. The desired mental picture should be formed hundreds of times every day, if only for a moment at a time, until a habit of calling up the desired conditions is formed.
So you're actively replacing old negative pictures with new positive ones.
That's the goal. If a new positive picture clashes with an old negative one, the new picture must be called to mind so frequently, so vividly, that the old one eventually fades away from lack of attention.
And combining the picture with words helps.
Yes, he firmly believed that the materializing of any reasonable mental picture can be hastened by accompanying the picture with earnest verbal autosuggestion, saying the affirmations while holding the image. He concludes this section by saying he's personally seen too many positive results from this method to doubt its effectiveness.
Wow. Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground today. We went through Dr. Parkyn's 1906 insights, the 3 types of autosuggestion, that dual mind theory, its application to physical health, mental well-being, building character, forming habits, even things like personal magnetism and optimism.
Right, and we touched on developing concentration, his radical idea about autosuggestion being the basis of all healing, and finally this powerful concept of mental pictures shaping reality.
It's quite a comprehensive system he built. So here's something to maybe chew on as you go about your day. If, more than 100 years ago, this physician was so convinced that consciously controlling our thoughts and our mental images was the primary way to achieve health, happiness, and success, what autosuggestions, what mental pictures might you be holding on to right now, maybe completely unconsciously, that are subtly shaping your life for better or for worse?